What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video. And today we're bringing back the last guy I did a collaboration with last year for the first collaboration mock draft that we're doing this year. James, welcome yourself to the show. Give the people your little rundown, even though they should already know who you are.
Yeah, thanks for having me. You can follow me on Twitter at NoFlagsFilm. Do a lot of writing for the 33rd team and a lot of draft content, but I'm excited to get into this one. I actually haven't even done a mock draft on the PFF sim. I've just been evaluating players, so I've got a ton of grades and everything, but I haven't actually played it out how it would stack up for an actual first round. So I'm excited to get into it.
Dude, I'm super excited as well. Obviously, we had a little bit of talk before this. We're saying, even in the first round, we might throw some curveballs that PFF might not be able to handle with their database. So it's going to be great. Obviously, you post a lot of all 22 clips on your Twitter profile as well. So people who like to see mine, go over and check out yours as well, because you give some very good content, which I usually retweet anyways. So thank you for letting me repurpose all your shit, but it is greatly appreciated. But starting out with the number one pick, we're allowing you to have it since you're guest on the show. I let you choose who you're going to be going with for Jacksonville.
So I'm going to take Travis Hunter. I think that there's probably not very many teams that I wouldn't take Travis Hunter for. And we're announcing it as the Jacksonville Jaguars select cornerback Travis Hunter. I think, not allowed to use the word generational anymore, but I'll just say that I've never seen a player in underneath zone coverage that checks every single box. He's got the movement skills to bounce from the flat to the hook in a split second. Obviously elite ball skills, even though he's kind of slight and a little bit undersized in some ways. He has long arms, so he can extend that catch radius. And just, I think it's obviously, I don't know what his process is, but it seems like a perfect combination of instincts and film study to know what he can get away with, anticipate route concepts. And, a lot of people have made this point before, but it's a lot easier to mix him in if he's full-time corner and then you give him 10, 15 snaps on offense than it is vice versa. So I think pretty easy decision there to put him on defense.
So I'm going to ask you about this because my logic is I've only drafted Travis as a wide receiver, not because I think he's a better wide receiver. I agree with you. I think his IQ is near generational for a corner, and it kills me to think about this. But when looking at the pay discrepancy between, wide receiver 23 is the equivalent of cornerback 4. Do you think that actually plays a factor in, or do you think that Travis is I'm going to be the best regardless, and he actually takes the route that might be best for him?
So I think it might have been Dane Brugler. I was listening to some podcast this week, and they were saying the first thing is just ask him what he wants to play. I totally agree with that, because if he is dead set on playing receiver, I'm not going to draft him and have him, play a position against his will.
Of course.
But if it's kind of a non-committal answer, it's I'm going to draft you to play a position, and that's what you're going to play. I don't, if he's super hard set on wanting to play receiver, which I would understand, then, I'd want him to play the position that he wants to play. But if he's kind of either way, I would definitely prefer him at receiver or at a corner.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, I don't think the Jaguars would be losing out if Travis Hunter had to play receiver either. I feel like there is a role for him to still play there. But obviously, I agree with you. The cornerback aspect of his game is honestly unbelievable, especially with the way that he processes the game. His field awareness is through the roof. At pick number 2 for the Miami Dolphins, I mean, I personally love Will Johnson to the point where I'd want to take him here, but it's just one of the few teams that I personally don't think, with the array of defensive backs that they have, that I could justify it over somebody like Mason Graham, who could step in instantly for that Christian Wilkins role that was vacant. And especially since Mason Graham has been improving week over week, started out a little slow versus Fresno State, I think that instant pass rush winnability could be really worth it. And I would love to go offensive line here, but I just don't think it's realistic. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's definitely the move that I would have made.
Yeah.
Graham and Kenneth Grant both kind of started off slow, but the last couple weeks they've really picked it up.
I know. Yeah.
So for me, I have Travis Hunter as the only blue chip player in this class at the moment, but
Ooh.
Mason Graham is my number 2 player. And,
Okay.
I don't see like elite pass rushing upside. I don't see him as being, a top 5 or 7 pass rushing defensive tackle, but I think
Sure.
kind of like right in that Christian Wilkins range, just like caliber of players is how I see Mason Graham. And yeah, they need help on the interior. So
Absolutely.
definitely agree with that pick.
Yes, sir. You got the number 3 with the Patriots. We're going to rock with this.
Patriots. So this is actually kind of another no-brainer pick for me, and I think it's going to be pretty controversial. Like, I don't know if there's anybody that would agree with this, but I'm going to go with Texas receiver Isaiah Bond.
Ooh, okay. I want to hear this. This is sick. I love Bond.
So yeah, Isaiah Bond, a player that I was a lot higher on than most people heading into the year. I felt like he was, and like we talked about this class a little bit before we started recording, but I think this is a very weak draft class. And I still feel like he's kind of a set it and forget it, no brainer first round grade. And I think I had him as wide receiver 2 heading into the year with Luther Burden as wide receiver 1. And I won't spoil the conversation on all the other receivers, but Burden I think is just maybe lacking some like high end upside and has had an underwhelming start to the season. Part of that's not on him. Like they haven't really featured him and fed him the ball as much as they could. And it feels like watching his tape, they've been getting a lot of just zone coverage and he's running like a deep clear out and stuff. So it's not like he's getting locked up by man coverage or anything. And I just think Isaiah Bond has the deep speed. He's got the route running ability, sudden change of direction skills. Don't love taking him 3rd overall just in an average draft class, but this is not an average draft class. And yeah, I feel like
actually, I'm pretty sure Bond is graded as my 2nd highest receiver. So there you go. I mean, I don't disagree with the value of Isaiah Bond at all. Again, at number 3 overall, that's why I was like, whoo, we're starting out with some fireworks, baby. But at the same time, it's understandable. I mean, Isaiah Bond can stretch the defense. He is not just someone who runs fast and runs deep. I love that about him. So,
I mean, the Jalen Waddle comps, I think, are very, maybe not the same caliber of prospect, but play style, I get a lot of flashes.
Yeah. I mean, like he graded just at like a 75 for me, which is like my borderline for a starter. So I think that's honestly perfectly fine. At pick number 4, though, for the Bengals, it's a little bit trickier because of the fact that, we don't know if T. Higgins is fully gone, but if he is, which I think he might be, T-Mac would be a really solid selection here. I'm stuck between T-Mac and Will Johnson, though, because I personally am a Will Johnson fiend. I see the smile. Like, what are you thinking?
Yeah, those are like, honestly, T-Mac and Will Johnson are the 2 like first round players that I'm probably lowest on relative to consensus.
Really? Yeah. Okay, now I'm intrigued because I love Will Johnson, but
so I definitely would prefer Will Johnson in this scenario.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. That's fair. I mean, there's also some contested catch guys that I think you could certainly get value wise for the Bengals. I don't know if there's a return on investment for T-Mac over Will, but I'm curious. I'll go with Will because to me he's my guy, but I really want to hear it from you because I'm just obviously I respect you as an analyst. I want to see like why do you not like Will?
So, I mean, I have a first round grade on Will Johnson, but I think I like him best as like a slot corner. I want him in a zone heavy scheme. I don't want him having to cover deep routes in man coverage. Like, so my process watching Will Johnson obviously had very high expectations for him in summer scouting. I watched the Washington game. He got beat deep down the field a couple times against Roma Dunze. Like, okay, not Will Johnson's best game. Next one up, I go to the Bama game championship. And he's just like playing zone coverage the whole time. Not a lot of evaluatable reps there. watch him against Ohio State. Obviously, he has the interception where Marvin Harrison kind of quits on that slant route, but that was kind of just like thrown right to him. Yep. But he got beat down the field a couple times by Marvin Harrison Jr. So it's like, okay, not really loving what I'm seeing, but let me watch some other games. I watched Maryland, and this is kind of the turning point where I was like, bro, come on. He gets beat deep down the field a few times against Maryland. I'm like, dude, you can't be doing this.
Don't diss Ty Felton like that, bro.
Okay, no, Ty Felton's a beast, but I didn't realize that at the time. But then like this year, so I tried to go into it with a blank slate. This year, Fresno State, I mean, like he had the pick 6, but he was getting torched by Fresno
76
State.
yards. Yep.
And like could have easily allowed a touchdown, but the receiver dropped it. I feel like I view him as more of like a mid 4.5s type of guy, like 4.53 is where I would put him.
Yeah.
And if I was doing a mock, I would guess that I'd probably have him going to like LA at 8. So it's not like I'm that far off on Will Johnson. I don't see him as this. I don't really see him as like a blue chip player because I think the most important trait for a cornerback is being able to keep up with deep threats down the sideline. And that's my number one concern with him. Outside of that, though, I really love everything about Will Johnson because he's got the coverage IQ, obviously the size, the short area explosiveness and change of direction is excellent. Ball skills. Like I love all of that. It's just
that top end speed.
Yeah. The top end speed. But then I still think he could be a guy where like, you stick him in the slot, or like I said, I think the Rams is a perfect scheme fit. Right. Same thing with the Cardinals, where they run a bunch of quarters. You get him in like zone coverage. He's not a player that I would bet against having a good NFL career if he gets put in the right scheme.
I respect that. I don't agree with everything, but at the same time, I certainly I could totally see where you would end up getting your thought process. And for people who are actually watching, this is what discourse is between people who disagree on a topic. You don't have to get personal. People love to get personal. I love Twitter. I love YouTube. But T-Mac actually is someone who I'm especially relatively lower on in the first round as well. So I'm curious to hear about that when we get to that point. But I'll allow you.
It won't be me taking T-Mac. I'll tell you that.
Do you have a first on T-Mac?
No, I don't really see it playing in the NFL. I'll be honest.
I'm going to be honest here. I see MVS as a more likely comparison as a bigger threat has deep speed capability. I think he builds up speed.
I had better Auden Tate as my comp.
Honestly, I didn't grade Auden Tate. I'm pretty damn new to this whole game, but I mean, I liked Auden Tate, to be fair.
He is better than Auden Tate. But it's just, the route running to me is just not so good. Unplayable, and the separation ability.
Yes. He's a deep threat who can catch.
I mean, like you said, his build up speed and when he gets space over the middle of the field, he can get to a good enough speed. But it's we'll probably get to him.
We'll get to him.
Yeah, we'll get to him.
Yeah. I just thought it was cool. All right, but you're at pick 5 still.
Let's see the Browns. So the problem once we get to this range is that there's a lot of quarterback needy teams, and I just can't really justify these quarterbacks in the top 5. I think the Browns definitely need offensive line, and so I'm going to go with Cam Williams out of Texas, who I think is not in the mock draft.
Okay, that's someone who I need to grade. Cam Williams out of Texas. All right, Brandon Crenshaw Dixon's already being taken. He's my placeholder for everything.
Yeah, there we go.
So explain Williams.
So he's unproven. I'm pretty sure this is his first year starting, although I didn't watch him last year.
Okay.
But
last year it was the guy who got taken to the Cardinals.
Right, yeah. So this is his first year starting. And you watch him and Kelvin Banks together. Banks is a much more put together player, but Williams just has the size and athletic traits that I think really there's no one else in this offensive tackle class that compares to him. He's the one player that I've graded so far where I think he has first round traits, and I've never at any moment thought about moving him into guard.
That's fair.
So yeah, it's like I don't love Cam Williams in the top 5, and I'll try not to be too repetitive, but like that's how it's going to be with all of these top 15 picks, where it's like, man, I'd love to be taking this guy at 25. But yeah, it's like Banks, I think really, really clean tape, but I just don't know if he has the athleticism. Will Campbell is
he
kind of a similar story. It's like everyone else, it's like I think they might end up as a guard, and
that's fair.
Yeah.
I have a lot of guys who are tackles that are listed OL because of the fact that I think they actually might end up kicking into guard. That's a fair point. At pick number 6 for the Titans, though, I should have been thinking about what I was doing this the whole time I was talking to you. But deep down, what would you go here? Because I personally am like on the train where I still think Nicholas Petit-Frere is absolute cheeks. I'd personally be willing to take Will Campbell, even if he ends up having to be a guard.
It's like that Joe Budden 2-pack of ass. That's India.
Yeah, that literally is Nicholas. But I mean, I'm starting to sound like you now. I don't really see, besides Will, someone who I think is quality enough to go at this pick, unless you want to address the corner position. I like Ben Morrison. I don't know what you think about Ben. Do you have a first on him?
Yeah, so I did. I've been kind of disappointed with his tape so far. But still a first on him.
Yeah, he's been slacking. But besides,
I would probably go, like, it's your pick, but what I would probably do is Luther Burden. Like, that would just be my pick. But
to be fair, I'm not the biggest guy on Luther Burden of all time.
Yeah,
but
me neither.
I think that in a Tyler Boyd role in a Callahan offense, if like you stick him in a very similar role, that is a thrivable role for him. That's why, by the way, I love taking Travis Hunter to the Titans, because usually they're at 2 when you do Super Bowl odds.
Right.
You know what?
The Titans are going to lose, potentially Tyler Boyd, but also DeAndre Hopkins this year.
Right. I'll actually rock it. I like your suggestion. I always get to yap and do my own suggestions. Sometimes it's fun to get your thoughts when I'm a little bit conflicted. So we'll rock it. Luther Burden. You're at number 7, though.
Okay, so with Luther Burden off the board, that's the last receiver that I would really be considering here. So for the Panthers, I'm definitely wanting to go edge. And man, so like the problem with this class is that heading into the year, it was already kind of thin, but then a lot of the players that I had preliminary first round grades on, or were at least in that conversation, have been disappointing. Like Mykel Williams, not really his fault, but he hasn't been able to show anything.
Right.
I feel like, Nic Scourton had his best game of the year, but he's like, I had him as my number 2 player in the preseason, and he hasn't lived up to that.
Yeah.
James Pearce has kind of been infrequently used.
Right.
So for me, I'm thinking about James Pearce or Abdul Carter. I think those are the 2 players that I feel the best about as pass rushers, but I don't trust them as early down run defenders. Sure. I don't know if you've watched Abdul Carter's game against Illinois, which was kind of like his breakout for this season.
It's the one game I haven't watched yet.
Yeah, so it was really impressive as a pass rusher. Like, you started to see, okay, this is what the hype was about. But he still gets pushed around and like bullied in the run game. And it's not even him getting blocked. He just gets like casually shoved by a tight end and gets put on the ground. Yeah, I feel weird taking that in the top 10.
That's fair.
Man.
It's a tough spot to be in, man. I will admit.
I'm gonna go Nic Scourton.
Yeah.
It's like 280 pounds. He can at least play on early downs. He is a good run defender, but he also plays with so much effort in that phase. And I feel like he's playing at a heavy weight this year.
Right.
I don't know. He hasn't really been as fluid. Like, I don't know if he's gotten. I think he had the spin move sack week 1 against Notre Dame, but I don't know if he's won with a spin move since then. which was like he was a fidget spinner last year. But yeah, I'll go Nic Scourton and just trust that he puts it together more the rest of the year.
Why does Texas A&M just balloon their dudes to weights that just don't make sense?
Yeah, it's the same thing with Shamar Turner
and Stewart. I mean,
Yeah,
Stewart's 290.
I like Stewart. I like Stewart a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I just like,
Turner is
why 290? Why 300? Why
Yeah.
285? Like, I don't know. That's when I saw Scourton end up transferring to A&M. My heart kind of sunk. I was like,
Really? Yeah.
because I just know. I mean, I was a believer in DeMarvin Leal earlier on before they had him balloon up and move to defensive interior, and they kind
Yeah.
of did the same thing with Shamar Turner. I'm just like, sometimes I just feel like they don't manage their players properly. Like, there's just a lot of meat on the bone.
They've got another guy, Cassius. I just watched this last week. Cassius Winston, maybe.
Okay.
Number 8. It's Cassius Howell.
Ooh.
Number 18. I just
Yeah.
watched this past week, but like he's 245. Like he can play, and he might get drafted before they can add too much weight on him to ruin him. So
I like that. Too much weight on him to ruin him. I respect that. You know what? For the Rams, I'm gonna go Ben Morrison. I mean, just get a quality player that. I mean, he's struggling a little bit this year, but at the same time, if Tre'Davious White can start on the Rams, Ben Morrison, you can bet your ass he can start on the Rams.
Yeah, Ben Morrison, he was great week 1, and then I think against like Miami of Ohio, he had this rep against Louisville where it was like he was way too aggressive. He tried to two-hand punch and he just whiffed, fell through, and like got beat down the sideline. I don't know. He's been disappointing for me this year, but I still definitely have a first-round grade on him. So
I'm curious. One of the things that pissed me off the most was watching James Marshall or Jason Marshall, excuse me. It's just like he's a physical corner that can never hit his punches. He always missed his punches when I was watching him.
So I watched him like a few games last year when I thought he was going to be in last year's class. And then when I realized he wasn't, I stopped watching him. So like I barely even remember him.
Yeah.
I remember he had this rough game against Vanderbilt where he got like beat by the guy who transferred to Colorado. But
yeah, Shepard.
Yeah. I don't really like remember any details about Marshall. He's at least statistically had a pretty good year this year.
Yeah, no, he's been doing a good job. I think his deep route recognition, especially being able to process what's going on outside of his specific zone, that's what impressed me the most, which surprised me because his physical build at like 6'1", 200, it built very, very well. I was kind of hoping for him to be more of the physical man-to-man style corner, but he surprisingly brings a high level of IQ and just does not have the pieces put together in terms of man coverage. That's like the only time where he really gives up genuine separation.
He's high up on my watch list. This is actually a pretty solid cornerback class, I will say.
It is. It sucks that Revel ended up tearing his ACL though. That sucked. Big time.
All right, so Cardinals at 9.
Some good options, to be fair.
Let's see. I'm kind of considering Kenneth Grant here. Yeah, I think I'm going to go with Kenneth Grant.
Defense interior. Nice.
Ideally, I would take an edge rusher.
Right.
But like I said, with Carter and Pearce, I just worry about if they're going to be pass rushing specialists. And I think Kenneth Grant's tape has been really good so far. He still gets like his anchor is not great for his size.
I agree.
I don't really see him as like a lunch pail nose tackle type of guy.
Sure.
But I think that, man, I'm getting like Mozzie Smith flashbacks with the justification, but hey, run it back. Let's do it.
Yeah, we'll do it. I am curious because I have a lot of faith in a player that doesn't have a lot of tape, but I guess it's going to be very similar to what you ended up selecting at pick 5. I'm a big guy for Jalen Walker.
Okay, yeah, no.
I'm a sucker for Jalen Walker.
That was the first guy I thought of when I saw the Cardinals, and then I was like, too early. But no, the small sample size that he's shown is awesome.
So where do you have him ranked? Obviously, again, super small sample size would probably drop him down a little bit for you, but
yeah, so he is my I still need to redo some of these grades, but right now he's my 10th ranked player.
You want to know where he's at for me?
Where? 5?
Yeah.
I like it.
I love him, dude. And I graded him both as a linebacker as well as an edge rusher. And it's like, man, he's awesome. But I'd take him at 9.
Honestly, though, when I haven't updated my grades in a while, like all of them. Like he's actually probably closer to 5 than 10 because I would take him over like Kelvin Banks or James Pearce. So yeah.
I have 2 guys I can see being moved out when I reevaluate them above him. So he could go even higher than that. But yeah, no, he's awesome. So that's a guy I normally go with for the Cardinals. But I like the changeup because defensive interior definitely is a position to target. Pick number 10 though for the Giants. You think it's time for a quarterback? Time to roll the dice? I think it is. What other positions would you consider here for the Giants? To be fair, I want to hear that because it's just so easy to plug the QB in.
Yeah, I think I would really only consider quarterback. I guess it's like I don't like taking a quarterback here just because I don't really like this class. But watching them this year, like they have so many of the pieces of a competitive team, and it's like they just don't have a quarterback that can get them over the finish line. So that's really the one team where I think I would force the issue at that position.
Yeah.
A lot of the other teams I would be fine with like punting on it this year.
Sure. I mean, like to be fair, this class has enough depth as well to where if you want to just sit back and then take somebody much later, you're probably going to be able to at least get somebody who can compete for your 53.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're talking about someone to compete for a starter job, I totally agree. I'm actually going to look towards Milroe positively here. I don't know if he's your QB1 at the moment. Technically, he's not my QB1, but when I think about what Brian Dable did with Josh Allen, which again, that's a bit ago, but when it comes to being able to work with his passing mechanics, which I think Milroe's continually doing, I could only see it going up from here. And I think he is a game-breaking athlete. So I think that could give him the difference that you kind of need.
Yeah, so I don't currently have him as QB1, but
he's QB3 for me at the moment.
Just like a couple more really good games, and like he will be quarterback 1. Because heading into the season, I was very like optimistic on Jalen Milroe. My stance was like he's not there yet. His processing over the middle of the field, like he's so late. Not even the middle of the field, just.
I agree. The timing is
reading out plays. It's just it's not happening fast enough.
Right.
I think you've seen slight improvement there, but the traits are just undeniable, and I think really surpass anyone else in this class. And so, I would be willing to go Jalen Milroe QB1 for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So who is like? I assume he probably is in your top 3, top 5.
Yeah. My quarterback 1 is pass.
Oh, okay, I got it. I'm like, huh?
But like, yeah. So
okay,
heading into the year, it was Carson Beck.
Right.
I feel like his downfall has been a little bit overstated. I don't think
I agree.
The Alabama game was like as bad. I mean,
it was a bad start.
Yeah, but like he
rebounded.
People were dropping him 2 rounds based off of 1 half.
Right.
But yeah, right now it would be Shedeur Sanders, but like even he has a mid-second round grade, so
that's fair. Yeah. So you're not
and like I was not that high on Shedeur this summer, but he's been pretty consistent this year. Really outside of the pick 6 against Nebraska, I've liked most of what he's done.
Yeah, I mean, I ended up actually reevaluating him today, and his grade boosted up a little bit for me. But I mean, it's a really tight group, I would say, at the top. but it's not a top group.
Yeah.
If
And
you
like
go.
I'm up. I kind of liked what I saw from Quinn Ewers to start out the year. Not
Yeah.
really a Cam Ward guy, but
Okay. Gotcha. Well, the pick is yours.
all right, Colts. So they need a corner
They do.
badly.
Yeah.
Let's see what corners we got. There, so like this is the part of the class that's actually pretty deep.
Yeah. I agree. I assume you're not very high on Tacario Davis based on the top end speed.
I think Davis is decent, like in the 20s. I haven't
Yeah.
watched I know he had a really good game week 5. I haven't watched that, but he was kind of like
5
rough
pass
to start out
breakups.
the year. Yeah.
Yeah, 5 pass breakups. Ridiculous.
So if he wasn't injured, I might consider Revel here.
Yeah. Breaks my heart, dude.
They also need a safety. But I'm also not that high on Malachi Starks. All right, can I tell you who I'm actually considering over Malachi Starks?
Do you want to say it with me?
Yeah.
Davison Igdenison?
No.
Oh, fuck off. You got me all hyped up.
I liked him, bro, but he's been kind of disappointing to start out the year.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
he's
they
had
use him in off man too much.
a bunch of I hate him in off coverage.
So bad. But
like it's the
sticky and he's sticky in man to man, but not off.
Yeah. All right, I'm actually considering, despite the massacre against Vanderbilt, I really like Mansoor Delane out of Virginia Tech still.
Ooh, okay. I was a little bit lower on him coming into the year, but
yeah, so I just like briefly watched his tape and like didn't even give him a grade, but I'm still gonna go Malachi Starks. I just had to shout him out that I was
okay.
I'll still take Malachi Starks. But some of the tackling angles with Starks are really concerning to me. And like there are times that he just doesn't look like a great athlete on the field.
I've said he might be in the 4.5s.
Yeah, it's like there's times where it's like this is the best safety prospect ever, the Clemson interception.
Yep.
And then other times that he looks like just a dude, like when he's trying to break down in open space.
Right.
So yeah, I need to monitor him closely, but for the time being, I'll take Malachi Starks.
Yeah. I end up having like a 4-word explanation. I just said overall solid limited athlete. I thought that it definitely popped up at certain points. I was like, damn. So I could definitely see that. Pick number 12 for LA. I'm going to go balls to the wall here. I'm going to go full Harbaugh. Let's go Ashton Jeanty.
I like it.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, he's done an excellent job with value running backs. But when you dangle pretty much a Bijan Robinson level running back, which, I mean, again, up for debate. But in terms of production, at least, in terms of production, Ashton Jeanty is definitely on that tier. And someone who is able to carry the rock a ton of times. I think you can't really say no. I'll ask you this. So I reevaluated him. He's my 10th overall prospect at the moment. And that's factoring in, I end up knocking running back grade-wise for being a running back. But one of the things I didn't like about his game is the fact that I don't think he has very north-south power. I did not see him run through anybody. I think he bounces off players very well. But there were certain moments in the Oregon game where I just saw him run head on, one-on-one versus even linebackers, and he did not win that. And it got to me because he's not a running back that I think would have that issue. But it was something I am worried might not translate well.
That's interesting because last year's tape, there were a lot of examples of him just like embarrassing dudes in the open field and like flattening them. So
yeah, it just caught my eye in Oregon. And obviously I gave him the benefit of the doubt because I saw it the year before. But it's just maybe it's because he had those second effort fumbles that maybe he doesn't commit to the same degree. I don't know. Something that just popped in my mind.
13th, we got the Saints. So ideally there would be a tackle here because Trevor Penning looks really good statistically right now, but they are protecting their tackles so much with that scheme.
Yeah.
I mean, there will be like literally 2 true dropbacks in a single game. And I think Brandon Thorne posted a cut up like through 2 weeks, they had like 4 true pass sets, and there were just clear losses from their tackles on all 4 of them.
Really? Even Fuaga?
Yeah. No, yeah. Well, Fuaga lost to Micah Parsons, so like I'm not gonna kill him for that. But I still think that tackle is a need.
I
Problem
agree.
is, where are the
tweeners? Yeah, there are a lot of tweeners here.
They also still need an edge rusher though, and I'm gonna go with Abdul Carter. I think like the pass rushing juice is pretty exciting with him. I honestly, he's shown a more advanced move set already, like having not really played on the edge than Chop Robinson ever did.
Yes.
And he's maybe 90 to 95% of the athlete that Chop is. So yeah, I'm good with Carter, even though I worry about his run defense for sure. And I think he'll be a limited player in terms of what phases he can play. I think if Chop Robinson can go in the 20s, Abdul Carter can go in the teens for sure.
I respect that. I mean, I took him yesterday at pick 9. So who am I to talk, right? So pick 14 though with the Cowboys. I think that, again, feel free to disagree with me. The 3 areas that I want to target first is going to be in no order: receiver, defensive interior, and then I would say running back. Those are the 3.
Yep.
And
corner also.
You could say that. I'm a believer in Kalen Carson though. Kalen Carson,
really?
He was a top 50 player for me.
Okay.
I'm a sucker for guys with zone instincts, even though they're complete garbage athletes. But regardless, I'm curious what your thoughts are on the running back class, because I've seen a lot of the clips that you post out, but I don't know if you've even posted like your rankings yet. Usually I like to use those for reference as well. I have a pretty clear top 2.
So my top 2. So yeah, I have a clear top 1, which is Jeanty.
Sure.
But yeah, my second would be Marion Hampton from UNC.
A lot of people have been saying that. He's due for a re-eval for me.
Yeah. Ollie Gordon has been very disappointing.
Agreed.
I like Quinshon Judkins for sure.
Yeah.
My top 3 would be Jeanty, Judkins, and Hampton.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, who's your 2?
Jeanty and Judkins.
Okay,
I said I owe Umanmielen the redo, especially now that the focal point of the offense pretty much is him. It's not like Drake May show, in my opinion. So I'm going to be going Quinshon here, though. I just think that A, it worked the last time you went Ohio State running back in the first, but B, it's a key part of the game that's missing, and I don't really see the value necessarily elsewhere. And to me, there is a perceived drop off. So
yeah, it's crazy. This is going to be such a change up in terms of how high I'm willing to take running backs this year.
It's an interesting class though. There's a lot of names that could go in a very large range.
So Bears, could you scroll through the list of available players just a little bit?
I thought you were going off your own board, dude. You were like pulling names out of nowhere.
I am, but I don't have it marked down who's selected.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think for the Bears, I would go Kelvin Banks here, and he's gonna let Nate Davis retire, which is what he clearly wants to do. And yeah, he's gonna be my right guard. Just like really, really polished hands. I just don't think he's a great athlete.
Yeah,
but a lot of that can be mitigated on the inside.
I get that. I mean, I think offensive line for the Bears is such an A+ move. But
like Kelvin Banks, if we were doing a college mock draft where they're going to go play college football for 4 more years, Kelvin Banks might be the first overall pick. Great college player.
Dude, he ends up on the ground a lot. I have some issues with his leverage.
He leans a lot.
Yeah. I see that with a lot of the players in this class, though, especially the offensive tackles. I call it toesy, but like very, very poor leverage, especially throughout the entire play. But Packers, honestly, I love the fact this team has so much depth. The fact that everywhere they have young players, they're really good at drafting down the board. So I don't really feel a necessity for any one particular position at the same way that, a lot of other teams, it's very easy right off the bat to select. Are there any positions that you think off the bat are just like the position where you're like, I'm drafting that for them?
The first thing that comes to mind is edge.
Yeah.
Their pass rush has been brutal this year.
Yeah.
Gary has not been great.
I have
I wouldn't personally have any sort of sunk cost when it comes to Lucas Van Ness, because I was not really that high on him, and not impressed by his rookie tape. So yeah, I would probably go edge.
So I have my name in mind. I'm curious if you're thinking the same thing I am. If you're going to edge,
I would probably go James Pearce, but I need to like
reevaluate.
Yeah, reevaluate once he plays, because I watched the Oklahoma tape. It was fine. Right. They haven't really played any other good teams.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's like, yeah, I need to give me a few weeks on him.
So are you not a fan of Umanmielen?
Oh, I like Princely.
Yeah, that was the name I was thinking of. A little bit bigger size to him as well.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I think based on his tape this year,
honestly, yeah, I don't hate Princely over James Pearce at all.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, they're graded directly next to each other at the moment. But I don't know. There's something about Princely that I feel is a little more consistent.
Princely's been great this year, and the other Ole Miss edge rusher, Jared Ivey, has been really good too.
Yes.
I haven't watched the Kentucky game yet, and they've played some really bad competition. So I don't know.
Stats wise, it's been a little inflated, but Princely is just so consistently in the backfield. I was
right, yeah, and he was really good last year too.
He was.
49ers are another interior O-line team. Really, any O-line.
Yeah,
they've got Trent Williams for however long he lasts, and then Dominic Pooney's been really good.
Yes.
Will Campbell's such a tough player because I don't really see him as a tackle, but he's so tall and upright that I don't see that being a great guard either.
That's a really good fit. That's a really good point.
He is a really just good player, and like his hands, his grip strength is awesome.
Yeah.
They're another like sneaky pass rush team.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
We got, Mykel. It's just I get why everybody is like into him. It's just it's so unproven. It's
agreed.
I couldn't do that right now.
Yep.
I will go James Pearce here for the 49ers. I just think they need some more juice off the edge.
I mean, you saw what they did in the offseason. They pretty much patched it with low-key washed veterans. So
yeah.
It's pretty obvious that's what they definitely missed out on in terms of drafting this past year. But for the Baltimore Ravens at 18, if I'm going to be honest, feel free to chime in here. I, for some reason, get very similar vibes to Roger Rosengarten when I'm thinking of Will Campbell. I don't know if it's just a white guy thing, but like I personally do believe that, he can fill in at left guard for the short run since he is so tall. My dream would be Ronnie Stanley to polish him to be the successor at left tackle for the long. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's probably the pick I would go with. I feel like Rosengarten had a little bit better range than Campbell.
That's fair.
Campbell's kind of like the midpoint between Joe Alt and Roger Rosengarten. Like Joe Alt kind of like he didn't really move out of his cylinder. It's like you're gonna have to get around me.
Right.
Yeah.
I actually like
that a lot, but he has 32-inch arms, so that strategy doesn't really play in the NFL.
Yeah. Yep. That's true. That is true. All right. You got the Eagles, my friend.
Eagles. Sneaky quarterback team.
I'm not going to be against it. I'll admit. Like
I would honestly though take Jalen Hurts over any of these quarterbacks.
right, like for year one.
Right.
Absolutely.
Like in last year's class, if we had Michael Penix sitting here or something, I might do that. But
Definitely.
I
Jalen's
kind of
been the reason they've been limited.
so he's injured right now.
Came in.
But I kind of like Kevin Winston Jr.
Oh, going after another safety, huh?
Yeah, so I actually had pretty much identical grades on Winston and Starks heading into the year. I loved Kevin Winston's tape. I think he missed his first tackle of his career in week 2 or week 3 or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll go Kevin Winston Jr. They just need some more stability in the secondary.
See, that to me, wait, did I end up taking him earlier? No, that to me is my dream pick for Jalen Walker right there. Like, let Fangio just toy around with the guy and then just see what the hell happens. But I've never seen defensive back to the Eagles after they like went hell of defensive backs last year. But what Reed is on his last year of deal too, if he doesn't come back.
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's getting roasted in podcasts.
Oh my God. I mean, to be fair, he asked for it. I mean, we're not going to lie here. He asked for that. He talks a lot of shit. So, I'm not going to defend somebody who definitely deserves the criticism he gives. But at number 20 for the Jets, I'm also going to quiz you on this one to see like the positions you think are worth it. I think that potential Mike Williams replacement, I don't think it's that big of an issue though, because like T-Mac could certainly be that. But getting that future at quarterback certainly seems to be a hot one. But the 3 I'd go with is probably quarterback, tight end, and then actually a future at right tackle. Because I think Olu should be the left. I think he looks really uncomfortable. And, he'll develop in time, but both those tackles are on 1-year deals.
Yeah, I might take another swing at tackle.
Yeah. Oh, I thought we took Emory Jones already. I'm like, what the hell? What are your thoughts on the right tackles that are available, though? Like, I assume your favorite at the moment, I'm going to roll the dice on this one, is going to be Josh Simmons because he's been far more polished this year.
I like Simmons. Yeah, it would be between Simmons and Ursery because like Ursery played great against Iowa. Right. And then against Michigan, he was great for like the first 3 quarters and then had 2 really bad reps to end the game. So
yeah,
kind of tough.
But he's a beast. I'll go with Emory though, because it's a true right tackle as well. I mean, also I think Ariante is someone who's still developing as a pass blocker.
For sure.
Because to me, he's an unbelievable run blocker. And I want him to go to a team that, like the Ravens, could kick him into guard for a short run, just allow him to be mentored. But Emory Jones, he's physical. I just think that he could potentially be a guard because doesn't he also lacks length, right? I'm pretty sure he's sub 34 for sure.
I don't have like verified measurements on him.
Right.
But he seems to like look more the part. I mean, he's lined up next to Will Campbell, so it kind of makes everybody look good.
Will Campbell's getting some sprays, man. Oh my goodness. All right. Vegas, where are you rocking?
I just mean look good from like a physical measurements perspective.
Yeah,
I
get what you're saying. Will Campbell doesn't have great length. Yeah.
Okay, so Raiders need a quarterback.
They do.
So that's another where I might like force the issue at quarterback. I haven't really paid attention to the whole saga about like Deion Sanders approving of wherever he gets taken. I personally don't feel like Shedeur Sanders is the caliber of prospect where his dad would have any sort of pull.
Yeah.
So in this universe, I'm going to take him to Vegas.
There you go. He looks good in with black as the primary. He'll just switch gold to silver. Hopefully he'll be as good. Fingers crossed. I do worry about his arm though, especially on the move. I do have.
I worry more about his lack of athleticism.
I do
like
agree.
he's really slow. He might be. I think that Carson Beck is a better athlete than Shedeur Sanders.
I agree with that. I was seeing a lot of scrambles that I was like, you got away from a college edge rusher that you ain't getting away from an NFL one.
So like the culture shock almost, or like athleticism shock of Bryce Young going from the SEC to the NFL. We saw that exact same disparity when Shedeur Sanders jumped from playing like FCS competition to playing in the Pac-12 last year. Like he was able to outrun, TCU, North Dakota State edge rushers. But when he got lined up against, Oregon, UCLA, Arizona, even, he's getting hawked down when he tries to break out of the pocket. And he also takes just really irresponsible paths out of the pocket as well.
That was my biggest issue with him of all. I was watching his game versus UCF earlier today, and it wasn't maybe a perfect pocket, but when he bailed at the worst possible angle to where he gave the defender the easiest lane to him. And sometimes he loves to drift right. I don't know why. He just loves to drift more right out of even clean pockets. I'm like, man, you forced yourself into that pressure.
There's gonna be a Stephen A. Smith, Dwayne Haskins moment. Like, you remember when he said Haskins was more of a scrambler.
Oh my God.
There's gonna be a moment like that with Shedeur Sanders where somebody's gonna out themselves as having never watched him.
Yep.
On one of the shouty shows, but yeah, he's like
shows.
He's a pocket passer, and his worst tape comes when he tries not to be. So
that's fair. At 22 for the Broncos, I'm actually going to give our quarterback Bo Nix a little bit more of a reason to throw past 5 yards. I'm going to give him somebody that could stretch the field, and I think I'm going to go T-Mac at this point. I feel like when it comes to separation, there's enough receiving targets on the team to where I feel comfortable with that. Just kind of let him be that big play threat to give Bo Nix either more time because you need to at least keep more defenders back, or just someone to say F it and turn a turnover-worthy play into a big-time throw. So what are your thoughts on that? I'm curious.
Yeah, I probably just wouldn't do that.
Okay.
But I mean, the only receiver that I would probably take over him would be Ty Felton. So, or Emeka Egbuka. I mean, McMillan would probably be my third receiver available here, but
that's fair.
I feel like the routes are just so slow and like aren't going to really threaten anyone in the NFL. And so he's going to, the ball skills are going to have to translate for him to work, which is obviously a coin flip.
Yeah.
Falcons. So Falcons still need an edge rusher.
They do.
They could use another receiver. But I think edge is probably the best place to go, especially with Braylon Trice getting injured.
Yeah. And being 245. Were you surprised by that too?
So I think that he probably dropped weight.
Oh no, I totally agree. Like the drop.
Yeah, no,
it was different. I'm like,
I wasn't like expecting him to test very well, but I was expecting him to be heavier.
Yeah, that's what I agree with that. It was kind of sad for me though. I liked him when he was at 270.
I'm going to take another player that's not on the mock draft sim. Can you guess who it is?
Is it Tyler Barron?
No. I think he's on there.
He's not. I take Antoine Powell-Ryland every time. I have my designated guy for him.
Hey, Antoine Powell-Ryland has some good tape this year. But I'm going to go with LT Overton out of Alabama. 6'5", 283, Texas A&M transfer, former 5-star recruit, and like he's really put it together as a pass rusher. The only thing that he's missing is just a little bit bigger sample size, but like he's got quick hands, he can bend, he has power, kind of a hybrid player, but man, he has first round tape if you were to just extrapolate that for an entire season. So I like
Okay.
Overton.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. I mean, Antoine has continued to getting ADP boost every time I end up using him. I'm doing him a service, all right? But pick 24 for the Lions. You know, it's kind of hard for me to pass on the quality of offensive linemen that are available here. Like I don't know what your thoughts are on Booker and Jackson. Like, do you have them being those first round quality players?
Yeah, I love Booker.
Yeah.
Jackson. So I've only watched one game of Ohio State offense so far.
Okay.
Or no, actually two. I watched Marshall and Michigan State.
Right.
And Donovan Jackson has been, I think he played in both games. Like he's been good this year is my point.
Yeah.
But thought he was kind of inconsistent last season. So I want to see him just continue to stack those games. But yeah, I love Tyler Booker. He's definitely a top 32 player for me. And Jackson is in that conversation for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to go Tyler Booker here. I think offensive line quality has kept the Lions at the level that they've been. And I don't see a reason why they should change that.
Yep. Yeah. Continue to invest in his strength. Washington Commanders. So I think you gotta address defense here.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you could look at any position besides interior defensive line, probably. So it's edge or corner.
Yep.
I
think we're on the same page in terms of like where we're looking. I'm curious what you think about Burke, because Burke and Iggy are kind of two separate players in terms of their skill sets. Like they're very, very different.
So honestly, let me tell you the two players that I'm deciding between right now.
Okay.
It's actually, so it's between Shavon or Revel. Is it? It's Shavon Revel.
Shavon. That's even better than Shavon.
Yeah.
Shavon
it's between
Revel.
him and Braden Swinson, the edge rusher.
Ooh, Texas, right? Or is it LSU?
LSU.
Yeah, I'm tripping. There's one. I think there's like one guy on each of those teams I adore that are just no names, in quotes, and Swinson's one of them. Ooh, okay.
But yeah, I'll go Revel.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even with the ACL?
Even with the ACL, I mean, it's usually you recover from that.
Yeah. Yeah. He was a really good player. And he also had tape this year. So it's not like he tore it preseason. All right. Bills. I mean, for me, I really want to invest in edge for the long run. And I feel like, especially since there still is, correct me if I'm wrong, is Vaughn up for a contract this year?
I don't know.
Yeah. If he is, then I would maybe change my pick. However, if I can, even though I know Vaughn's not like a superstar or anything, but being a mentor to Mykel would be phenomenal. Letting that, like, they took a shot on Rousseau when he was still very developmental. He didn't end up having the last season that everybody thought he would. And that was the Jalen Phillips year, right? Like, that's when Jalen Phillips popped off. I feel like Mykel could be very similar to that. So I feel like that's the route I'd go. Are there any other ones that you would consider?
So if I was going edge, it would be between Mykel and Braden Swinson for LSU. Yep. I would probably go Swinson, but
okay.
Yeah,
I haven't studied Swinson in all 22 yet. So
he's outstanding.
Okay. Well, I'll go Mykel because I'd rather you have the podium for a player that you were ready to go to bat for. Seattle.
Seattle. So I just pulled up the list of linebackers. I was hoping there was going to be someone, but it's another weak linebacker class, I think. So
I think it's more like there's more guys you can take swings on, but not guys you can confirm.
Yeah. I mean, I like both of the Alabama linebackers have had good tape this year.
Lawson and Campbell.
Smile Munden has been pretty solid. Not really a Danny Stutzman guy, but Barrett Carter's also been good.
Yeah.
I would go. I'll go Arianti Ursary. because get some tackle guard flexibility. So I actually, based on last year's tape, he fit that mold of like the zone run blocker that struggled in pass pro. This year, I've actually been a little bit underwhelmed with his run blocking and pleasantly surprised by his pass pro. So we'll see how that plays out. He's really good with his hands, just kind of lacking some pocket range. So he might be more of a guard.
I have him listed as an offensive lineman right now because also I think he's still trying to figure out who he is as a blocker. And usually when you have that lack of actual identity, edge rushers will take full advantage of you. So I like that for sure. Pick 28 for the Steelers. Based on the players available, I mean, feel free to disagree with me here, but I always look back on all the stars the Steelers have had in the receiving core. Not a one from the first. Their specialty is finding great value after the first round receiving room. I'm going to trust that strength. I don't trust the corner core outside of Joey Porter Jr. because Dante's up for a contract, but even with was it Trice? I mean, who's the guy? I'm tripping. The Purdue corner,
Corey Trice.
Okay, yeah, well, was right. He's been unreliably healthy as well. So I like Tacario Davis in this system. He had similar strengths to what Joey Porter Jr. did. I don't think he has the athleticism that Joey Porter Jr. did, but at the same time, I had Joey Porter Jr. as my number 2 player in that class. I don't have Tacario that high, but I do like the ball production, the length, the IQ, and he's even really solid versus the run for a guy who's more so like long-armed, lanky.
Yeah, I got no really pushback there. I'm probably a little bit higher on his athleticism than you are, but
I would say change of direction, not top end.
Yeah.
Speed. Yeah, change of direction. He's a little bit.
It's like syncing with stop routes was his big thing from last year, at least.
Well, my theory was why he had so much ball production last year is because since he had a hard time changing direction, syncing on those stop routes, the receiver would appear more open than they are, and that would allow the quarterback to target. And usually quarterbacks don't have the same processing capabilities that NFL quarterbacks do, so it might have been a little bit late. With those long arms, that leads to pass breakups or interceptions. But, I mean, I still think he's a really, really good corner.
Yeah. So the Texans, they need a defensive lineman.
They do.
And
are you a Walker guy?
No.
I think his pad level is atrocious.
Oh yeah, it's so bad. It's
he ends up on the ground all the time.
I mean, if you just like squint your eyes on any all-22 clip of Kentucky's offense, you'll just like see his head poking up 2 feet ahead of everybody else's. I'm going to go with Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss.
Ooh.
Another player where to actually give him a first-round grade, I'm going to just need to see bigger sample size because last year's tape was not good, in my opinion.
I agree.
This year, he's been outstanding, but like, again, they played Wake Forest and other teams that I like can't even name.
Furman, I think.
Yeah. Furman. Yeah. But I'll go with Walter Nolan.
Well, Walter Nolan continues my theory that Texas A&M just sends all their players to shit because the moment that he leaves, he just goes
crazy.
Yeah. I mean, imagine that defensive interior or defensive line if he didn't leave. It'd be Scourton, Stewart, and Nolan.
And Overton, who I just took.
Oh my God. You're right.
Yeah.
He was Oh, shit. Dude, Texas A&M, I don't know what they're doing
fumbled
wrong.
the bag with that recruiting class.
Oh my God. You're telling me. Buccaneers at 30. I assume you're not super high on Colson Loveland because you haven't mentioned him recently.
Yeah, I mean, he's solid. He's not really a good blocker, so
I feel like for being a receiving tight end, the big asterisk, he can block. But if you're talking about it on, I'm curious, are you a Tyler Warren tight end 1 guy right now?
So I still need to evaluate him. I've watched Penn State offense, just the first couple weeks, but I know he popped off a bunch recently. So
yeah,
I watched him last year, and I pretty much liked everything except he just dropped so many passes. So if he fixes that, I would be open.
He's at 4.8% this year, which is good.
Yeah,
that's respectable. No, Fannin is the interesting one. He's making me change my grading system entirely to value run after the catch ability more.
Yeah, so, Fannin's a beast.
Yeah, I mean Warren's just a better blocker, but regardless, for the Buccaneers, I'm actually going to go to bat for my guy Jalen Walker. Has the size profile that can replace Joe Troy and Shoyinka, and he's just a fucking badass. So I can't let him
even realize we haven't taken Jalen Walker.
I know. Wait, I didn't think so either. I'm like, damn.
I would have taken him over Mykel.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, they're different size profiles, but yeah, I mean, it's just he's such a badass.
All right. Vikings. What are we thinking for the Vikings? They still need corner.
They need quarterback. No, they don't. Can you imagine they just go after another one? That'd be crazy. Like, do you think, okay, actually serious question though. Do you think that if Sam Darnold remains this competitive that I'm sure they would tag him at the very minimum, but do you think JJ McCarthy would be potentially shopped?
That's such a tough question. I would probably
like who would leave out of those two?
So I wasn't huge on McCarthy, but I would probably stick with McCarthy because I think that like evaluating Sam Darnold's tape this year, he hasn't been as good as the stats would suggest. Like there are still some bad decisions that haven't been converted by the defense. So yeah, I would probably roll with McCarthy.
Okay.
But for this pick, I am going to go with Mansoor Delane out of Virginia Tech.
Okay.
Yeah. It would be between him. Don't draft him. Don't draft him. Don't draft him. Man,
I'm holding on.
Like Maxwell Hairston, I really liked his tape last year.
Okay.
And I haven't studied Kentucky's defense enough to really know how he's doing.
Okay.
So I will go with Mansoor Delane. Final answer.
Okay. Final answer.
He had just an uncharacteristic, maybe one of the worst cornerback performances that I've seen in week 1 against Vanderbilt.
Yeah. That scared the shit out of me.
He has been steadily like stacking good performances. And just the movement skills, the man coverage ability at his size, I really like. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. At 32 for the Chiefs, I don't believe they're going to be able to pay Trey Smith. So I'm going to be going after offensive line. And I am a Donovan Jackson guy. I love the upside that he brings to the table. He's top. He's my number 7 player on my board. Spoiler alert.
Nice.
I'm a big believer in Donovan Jackson. Tyler Booker is number 6 though. So with that being said, I'm going to go Donovan Jackson. We're going to end off the mock right there on a high note. I earned a reward? Oh, shit. Let's go.
Is that new?
I don't know. I've never seen that before, but that's sick. But yeah, I mean, obviously you bring a high level of athleticism, someone who even could be tackle versatile. I don't know if you see that upside with him, but I feel like the movement skills, the length, and the overall IQ is actually surprisingly solid.
Yeah, I see probably as much tackle upside as some other players in this class that play tackle currently.
That's
like
a good way to put it.
Wyatt Milam, great player, but 32-inch arms on the dot. Doesn't Jackson have like 34-inch arms or something?
Yeah, pretty sure it's like 34 or 34 and a half. It's like
he's pretty similar to Trey Smith in a lot of ways.
Yeah, dude. You know what sucks? Jaden Roberts. He's not putting like pen to paper, so to speak.
He had a rough game against Georgia. Bama.
Or Bama.
Yeah, against Georgia.
No, Georgia, yeah.
No, yeah, you were right.
Man, you got me second guessing. No, that sucked. But anyways, on that sour note, because I love Jaden Roberts coming into the year, thank you for coming on. Feel free to remind people where to find you.
Yeah, find everything on Twitter, X, @NoFlagsFilm. And yeah, man, thanks for having me.
Of
Happy
course.
to chop it up.
No, it was fun. Obviously, I mean, like We've been trying to do this for the past week, but I'm glad that we finally got to do it. But to you guys who are watching, we love you. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you on the far side. Peace.